For 7 years, I was nothing more than a ghost in a tower, until the night the Alpha King himself shattered my prison door, took one look at me, and fell to his knees as if I'd struck him down. What happened next would reveal why they'd locked me away, why my touch could kill or heal, and why the most feared ruler in the realm was now bound to me by a force neither of us could control. The stone beneath Lyra's fingertips had worn smooth from 7 years of tracing the same path along her prison wall. 32 steps from wall to wall. 843 stones in the ceiling. 2,555 days since they'd sealed her in this tower for the crime of being born different. She heard them before she saw them. Boots thundering up the spiral stairs, voices sharp with urgency. After years of nothing but the whisper of wind and the occasional crow, any human sound felt like an assault. "Your Majesty, please, the structure isn't stable." Lyra pressed herself against the far wall, her matted silver hair falling across her face. They never came at night. The guild that imprisoned her had strict rules. Food at dawn, water at dusk, no contact otherwise. The door, 3 inches of enchanted iron that had held her for nearly a decade, suddenly groaned. Then, impossibly, it began to glow white-hot at the edges. "Stand back," commanded a voice that seemed to reverberate through the very stones. The door exploded inward, and Lyra threw her arms up against the shower of molten metal and stone. When the dust cleared, she lowered her hands to find 3 figures silhouetted in the doorway, guards in midnight blue armor, flanking a man whose presence seemed to fill the entire tower. The Alpha King. Theron stood before her, and Lyra's breath caught. She'd heard stories, even in her isolation. The Wolf King, who'd united the fractured territories. The warrior who'd never lost a battle. The ruler whose enemies whispered was more beast than man. But the stories hadn't mentioned his eyes gold like molten autumn, or how the air itself seemed to bend around him with barely contained power. 7 years, he said, his voice rough as mountain stone. They kept you here 7 years. His knees hit the stone floor with a crack that echoed through the chamber. His guards rushed forward, but he threw out one hand, stopping them. "Don't," he gasped, his eyes never leaving Lyra's face. His whole body trembled as if fighting against invisible chains. "Don't touch." Golden light erupted from where his knees met the floor, spreading in veins across the stones toward her. Lyra scrambled backward, but there was nowhere to go. The light reached her bare feet, and she gasped as warmth impossible. Overwhelming warmth flooded through her, after years of cold. "Impossible," one of the guards breathed. "The recognition bond. But she's human," Theron finished, his voice strangled. "She's human." Lyra stared at the man, kneeling before her. The Alpha King, whose very presence made the air vibrate with power. The golden light still pulsed between them, creating patterns on the tower walls that looked almost like ancient runes. "What's happening?" she whispered, her voice rusty from disuse. Speaking felt foreign after years of silence. Theron's jaw clenched as he fought to remain still. "Something that shouldn't be possible," he managed through gritted teeth. "The recognition. When an alpha finds their CO Maris," he cut himself off, shaking his head. "But you're human. You can't be—" "Your Majesty," the taller guard interrupted urgently. "The Mage Guild will have felt the tower breach. We need to leave now." "Can you stand?" Theron asked Lyra, his golden eyes burning with an intensity that made her want to look away and stare forever simultaneously. Lyra took a step forward. But her legs, weakened from years of confinement, buckled immediately. Before she could fall, Theron moved faster than humanly possible, catching her against him. The moment their skin touched, the world exploded. Every nerve in Lyra's body lit up like lightning, and she heard Theron's sharp intake of breath. Images flashed through her mind, running through moonlit forests, the taste of night wind, the feel of earth beneath paws. "Pause?" She jerked back, but Theron's arms held her steady. "I know," he said quietly. "I feel it too." "The sealed one?" the shorter guard breathed, staring at Lyra with a mixture of awe and fear. "The prophecy." "Enough, Caster," Theron commanded. To Lyra, his voice gentled. "Can I carry you?" The Mage Guild keeps many prisoners, but they only lock away those they truly fear. We need to get you somewhere safe before they realize what's happened. Lyra nodded, unable to trust her voice. When Theron lifted her, she expected to feel afraid she'd been touched by no one for 7 years. Instead, being in his arms felt like coming home to a place she'd never been. They descended the tower stairs at inhuman speed, Theron's guards flanking them. Through arrow slits in the walls, Lyra caught glimpses of the outside world mountains, bathed in moonlight, forests stretching endlessly, stars she'd only been able to see through a palm-sized window. 7 years, Theron murmured again, his voice carrying a rage that made the shadows themselves seem to shrink back. What possible crime could warrant? I healed the wrong person, Lyra said quietly. The governor's son was dying from lung rot. I was young, barely 15. I didn't know I was supposed to let important people die if the guild hadn't sanctioned the healing. Theron's arms tightened around her. You saved a child and they imprisoned you? The Mage Guild said unsanctioned magic was dangerous. That I was dangerous. She couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped. They said my power was wrong somehow. Tainted. That I could heal, yes, but that I could also, she stopped, unable to voice what else they'd discovered about her abilities. They burst from the tower into the courtyard, where massive wolves waited, not horses, but actual wolves, each the size of a warhorse, their eyes gleaming with unnatural intelligence. Lyra's scream caught in her throat as the enormous wolves padded closer, their silver and black fur rippling in the moonlight. Each stood taller than a horse, with eyes that held too much intelligence to be merely animal. Peace, Theron murmured against her ear, and she realized she was trembling. They're my personal guard. We are. Not entirely human ourselves. One wolf, pure midnight black with a white star on its chest, approached slowly and lowered itself to the ground. Theron settled onto its back as naturally as breathing, still cradling Lyra against his chest. Hold on, he warned, and the wolf surged to its feet. They flew across the landscape at impossible speed, the wind whipping Lyra's tangled silver hair behind them. She should have been terrified racing through darkness on the back of a giant wolf, held by a king who was apparently something other than human. Instead, she felt alive for the first time in 7 years. Behind them, an explosion of purple light erupted from the tower they'd fled. The guild, Castor called out, his voice carrying despite the wind. They know she's gone. Theron growled, actually growled, and the sound vibrated through his chest into Lyra's back. Let them come, he said darkly. I'd welcome the chance to discuss their imprisonment policies. They rode for hours, stopping only once at a hidden spring to rest the wolves. Theron helped Lyra drink from the clear water, his hands impossibly gentle for someone who radiated such lethal power. Why were you at the tower? Lyra asked, finding her voice again. The guild's prison isn't exactly on any royal touring route. Theron's golden eyes flickered with something unreadable. I've been searching, he said carefully. For weeks, I've been having dreams. Visions of silver light calling to me, trapped behind iron. He touched her matted hair carefully, as if she might disappear. I thought I was going mad. My advisors certainly did. An alpha king abandoning his court to chase dreams. What's an alpha? Lyra asked, though something deep in her bones already seemed to know. We are the winter wolves, Castor answered, when Theron hesitated. Shapeshifters who have existed since before the kingdoms were formed. His Majesty is our alpha king, the strongest of our kind, chosen by the moon herself to lead. And this recognition? Lyra pressed, remembering that word from the tower. Theron's jaw tightened. Something that shouldn't be possible with a human. It's the moment an alpha's wolf identifies their destined mate, their other half. But you're human, Lyra finished. Yes, you mentioned that. She was quiet for a moment. Except I'm not entirely, am I? That's why the guild locked me away. Not just for unsanctioned healing. Theron studied her face in the moonlight. What else can you do? Before she could answer, howls erupted from the forest around them. Different from their wolf guards, these were wild, threatening. The guards immediately formed a protective circle, their hackles raised. Guild hunters, Theron spat. They're using bloodhounds, wolves corrupted by dark magic to track and kill. Lyra felt something stir in her chest, a power she'd kept buried for 7 years. The same power that had terrified the guild enough to lock her away. "Put me down," she whispered. "Absolutely not, Theron," she said, and his name on her lips made them both freeze. "Trust me. Put me down." Against every visible instinct, Theron lowered Lyra to the forest floor. Her bare feet touched the earth, and immediately she felt it, the life force of every living thing for miles around, singing through her bones. The corrupted wolves burst from the undergrowth, their eyes glowing sickly purple with guild magic. They were wrong. Twisted wolves forced into monstrous shapes by sorcery, their bodies enlarged and distorted into killing machines. "Stay behind me," Theron commanded, already beginning to shift. His form blurred, expanding, and suddenly a massive silver wolf stood where the king had been, lips pulled back in a snarl. But Lyra stepped forward instead, raising her hands. The power that had slept for 7 years roared to life, and her palms began to glow not with golden healing light, but with something else entirely. Silver-white energy that made the very air crackle. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the corrupted wolves. "I'm so sorry for what they did to you." She pressed her hands together, and a wave of that silver light exploded outward. Where it touched the bloodhounds, they howled not in pain, but in something like relief. The purple glow in their eyes flickered and died, the twisted enlargements in their bodies smoothing away. In seconds, where monsters had stood, normal wolves remained, shaking their heads as if waking from a nightmare. The forest went completely silent. "Impossible," Castor breathed. "She purified them. She broke guild enchantments like they were nothing." Lyra swayed on her feet, the effort having drained her severely. Theron, still in wolf form, immediately pressed against her side, supporting her weight. His wolf was breathtaking, silver-white fur that seemed to hold moonlight, easily twice the size of the other pack wolves. "That's why they locked you away." Theron's voice somehow echoed in her mind, though his wolf form shouldn't have been able to speak. "You can undo magic itself." "Not undo," Lyra corrected weakly, her hand unconsciously burying itself in his thick fur. "Purify, return things to their natural state." The guild saw it as an abomination, a power that could threaten their entire structure of control. "Finally see with the guild," that shaming. More howls echoed in the distance. "Many more?" "We need to move," Castor urged. "The guild is sending everything they have." Theron shifted back to human form in a fluid motion, catching Lyra before she could fall. "The pack fortress is still hours away," he said grimly. "Can you ride?" Lyra nodded, though exhaustion pulled at every muscle. As Theron lifted her back onto the wolf, she caught the look that passed between the guard's awe mixed with something else. Fear, perhaps. Or hope. They rode harder now, the wolves pushing themselves to their limits. Behind them, Lyra could feel the guild's presence growing, mages on horseback, tracking spells, spinning out like spiderwebs, and more corrupted creatures released from their cages. "They really want me back," she murmured against Theron's shoulder. "They won't have you," he said with such finality that she almost believed it. "You're under the protection of the Winter Pack now. We don't abandon our own." "I'm not Pack," Lyra pointed out. Theron's arm tightened around her waist. "My wolf says otherwise. And regardless, you're mine to protect now." The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it made something warm unfurl in her chest. After 7 years of being nobodies, of mattering to no one, the fierce claim in his words felt like armor. Dawn was breaking when the fortress finally came into view, a massive structure built into the mountain itself, part castle, part den. The Winter Pack fortress defied everything Lyra had imagined. Rather than a cold mountain stronghold, it pulsed with life gardens cascading down terraced walls, water flowing through clever channels, and everywhere, the sound of voices and laughter. Pack members emerged as they arrived, dozens of them, all moving with that same fluid grace that suggested the wolf beneath the skin. They stared at Lyra with undisguised curiosity, whispers rippling through the crowd. "The prophecy. A human mate, Kaish. Look at her hair, like moonlight. Can you smell the power on her?" Theron dismounted first, then lifted Lyra down, keeping her close to his side. "This is Lyra," he announced, his voice carrying absolute authority. "She is under my protection. Any threat to her is a threat to me." An older woman pushed through the crowd, her steel-gray hair braided with bones and feathers. Her eyes, the same gold as Theron's, narrowed as she studied Lyra. "Mother," Theron said carefully. "This is—" "I know what she is," Queen Mother Silas interrupted, circling Lyra slowly. "I can smell it on her. Human, but not. Power, but wrong. And the recognition bond pulses between you like a living thing." She stopped directly in front of Lyra. "Show me your hands, child." Lyra hesitantly extended her palms. The Queen Mother traced a finger over the faint scars, their marks from years of pressing against stone. But also older marks, silvery lines that formed patterns. "Moon marks," Silas breathed. "You were born under a lunar eclipse, weren't you?" "And how did you?" "Yes," Lyra stammered. "My mother said I came during the blood moon. The midwife wanted to drown me. Said I was cursed." "Not cursed," Silas said thoughtfully. "Blessed. Or cursed, depending on your perspective. Moon-touched children are rare, born with one foot in the human world and one in ours. The old stories speak of them." "Old stories say many things," Theron interjected. "Right now, she needs rest, food, and healing." "No," Lyra said quietly, and everyone turned to look at her. "First, I need to know what's happening to me. The recognition bond, I can feel it like a rope around my heart. It hurts." Silas and Theron exchanged glances. "It hurts because it's incomplete," the Queen Mother said carefully. "A recognition bond requires acknowledgement from both parties." "You mean claiming?" A younger wolf called out from the crowd. "She means the alpha has to claim his mate properly, and the mate has to accept." Theron growled low in his throat, and the younger wolf immediately submitted, showing his neck. "Enough," the Alpha King commanded. "Lyra has been through enough without being overwhelmed by pack politics." But Lyra was already swaying on her feet, 7 years of imprisonment, and the night's events finally taking their toll. Her knees buckled, and this time, when Theron caught her, she didn't have the strength to stand again. "The healing chambers," Silas ordered briskly. "And summon healer Vera. The child is exhausted beyond measure." As Theron carried her into the fortress, Lyra heard Silas murmur, "A moon-touched child, and an Alpha King. The prophecy begins." "What prophecy?" Lyra tried to ask, but darkness was already claiming her. The last thing she felt was Theron's lips pressed to her forehead, and his whispered words, "Rest now, little moon. You're safe. I swear it on my crown and my wolf, you're finally safe." Power and consciousness. But even as she sank into unconsciousness, Lyra knew safety was an illusion. The guild would come for her, prophecy. And whatever prophecy the Queen Mother spoke of, it would demand a price. Lyra woke to sunlight streaming through windows she hadn't seen in 7 years. Real windows, wide and open, with no bars. The room was warm, filled with soft furs and the scent of pine. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then the memories crashed back the tower. Theron, the wolves, the fortress. She sat up quickly, immediately regretting it as her head spun. "Easy." A gentle voice came from beside her bed. A young woman with kind brown eyes, and the telltale grace of a wolf shifter sat nearby, grinding herbs in a mortar. "I'm Vera, the pack healer. You've been asleep for a full day." "A full day?" Lyra gasped. "Your body was shutting down from prolonged imprisonment and magical exhaustion, using that much power after 7 years." Vera shook her head. "You're lucky to be alive." The door burst open, and Theron strode in, his face tight with barely controlled fury. "They're here," he said to Vera, then his eyes found Lyra. His expression softened marginally. "You're awake." "Who's here?" Lyra asked, though she already knew. "The Mage Guild. A full battalion, led by High Inquisitor Aldrich himself." Theron's hands clenched into fists. "They're demanding your return. They claim you're a dangerous criminal who escaped lawful imprisonment." Lyra felt ice slide down her spine. Aldrich, she remembered him. Cold blue eyes and hands that burned when he tested her power. determining she was too dangerous to live free. Contem. You can't fight them, she said urgently. The guild has treaties with every kingdom. If you refuse them, quote, let me worry about politics, Theron interrupted. You're not going back to that tower. Not while I breathe. Quote, you don't understand, Lyra insisted. Trying to stand, Vera caught her as she swayed. Aldrich didn't come here just for me. He knows what I am, what I can do. He'll use it as an excuse to... A horn sounded outside, 3 sharp blasts. Theron's expression darkened further. They're demanding an audience, Vera translated. Pack law says we must receive them. Then we receive them, Theron said grimly. To Lyra, he added, you stay here, don't leave this room for any reason. Ah, Theron. But he was already gone, moving with that inhuman speed that reminded her he was so much more than just a king. Lyra waited exactly 5 minutes before turning to Vera. I need clothes, and I need to get to the throne room, the Alpha said. The Alpha doesn't know what Aldrich is capable of, Lyra said firmly. I do. 7 years in that tower taught me exactly what the guild thinks of beings they can't control. Your pack is in danger because of me. Vera studied her for a long moment, then sighed. The Queen Mother said you'd say something like that. She moved to a wardrobe, pulling out clothing. She also said to give you these. The clothes were simple, but well-made leather pants, a tunic, and most importantly, boots. Real boots after 7 years of bare feet on cold stone. Passage. There's a servant's passage, Vera said quietly. You can listen without being seen, but if the Alpha asks, I knew nothing about this. The passage was narrow and dusty, but it led to a hidden gallery above the throne room. Lyra pressed against the carved screen that allowed her to see below. The scene was worse than she'd feared. Aldrich stood at the center of the room, surrounded by guild mages in their purple robes. But it was what stood behind them that made Lyra's blood freeze. Corrupted beings, human wolf hybrids that should not exist. Their bodies twisted by guild magic into weapons. You harbor a criminal, Aldrich was saying, his voice like poisoned honey. Return her, and we leave peacefully. She is no criminal. Theron's voice rang out from his throne, where he sat with deliberate casualness that didn't fool anyone. She is under the protection of the Winter Pack. Aldrich smiled, a cold expression that never reached his eyes. Protection? Your Majesty, you don't understand what you're harboring. Lyra Moonwhisper is an anomaly, a magical aberration that threatens the very fabric of ordered society. From her hidden position, Lyra bit her lip hard enough to draw blood. Moonwhisper, they'd even taken her name, replacing it with their designation for moon-touched children they deemed dangerous. She can unravel magic itself, Aldrich continued, his voice rising to address the assembled pack. Any spell, any enchantment, any magical bond, she can destroy it with a touch. Do you understand what that means? Praxis. Your very nature, your ability to shift the bonds between mates, she could erase it all. Murmurs rippled through the pack. Lyra saw doubt creeping into faces that had been welcoming days before. You're lying, Theron said flatly. Am I? Aldrich gestured, and 2 mages stepped forward, dragging a figure between them. Lyra's heart stopped. It was a young wolf shifter, barely 16, with terror in his eyes. Shall we demonstrate? This young one was caught outside your borders. Observe, pressed Erd. Before anyone could stop him, Aldrich pressed something a collar around the boy's throat. The youth screamed, his body convulsing as he tried to shift and couldn't, trapped between forms in obvious agony. Theron was on his feet instantly, but Aldrich raised a hand. One more step, and the boy dies. Collar. The collar is designed to force constant shifting until the body tears itself apart. Only guild magic can remove it safely. His smile widened. Or, of course, your precious Lyra could dissolve it, but that would require her to reveal herself, wouldn't it? Lyra didn't think. She moved. She burst from the servants' entrance, racing across the throne room floor before anyone could stop her. Her hands reached for the suffering boy, that familiar silver light already gathering in her palms. No! Theron roared, but it was too late. Lyra grabbed the collar, and her power surged through it. The device shrieked and crumbled to ash, the boy collapsing but breathing, whole, silence. Then Aldrich began to laugh. There she is, he said triumphantly. The moon-touched abomination. See how easily she destroyed guild magic? Imagine what she could do to you. But something unexpected happened. The young wolf Lyra had saved struggled to his feet and moved to stand beside her, not away from her. She saved me, he said, his voice hoarse but determined. The guild tortured me, and she saved me, paused. As she saved my son, another voice called out. An older pack member stepped forward. Years ago, before her imprisonment, my son was dying from lung rot. The guild said he was too common to waste healing magic on, but she came in the night, risked everything to heal him. www. More voices rose. Stories of healing, of kindness, of a young girl who'd helped anyone who needed it, regardless of the cost to herself. Aldrich's face darkened. Enough. She comes with us, or we declare war on the Winter Pack. Try it, Theron said, moving to stand beside Lyra. His hand found hers, and the recognition bond pulsed between them, visible as golden threads. But know this, she is my recognized mate. An attack on her is an attack on the crown itself. Gasps echoed through the room. Even Aldrich stepped back. Quote, You bonded with her? He asked, disbelief clear. You fool. Don't you know what she is? I know exactly what she is, Theron said. The question is, do you? She's the moon's chosen, Queen Mother Silas announced, stepping from the shadows where she'd been watching. The one prophesied to restore the balance between human and wolf, magic and nature, power. Aldrich scoffed. Prophecies, myths, and folklore won't protect her from guild law. No, Silas agreed. But the old laws might. She pulled out an ancient tome, its pages yellowed with age. By the Treaty of Silver Knights, signed by the first guild masters and the original pack alphas, any moon-touched child claimed by an alpha is granted sanctuary until the next lunar eclipse. That treaty is centuries old, Aldrich began. And, still binding, Silas interrupted. Unless you'd like to break it and face the consequences, every pack in the realm would turn against the guild. Aldrich's jaw clenched. The next lunar eclipse is in 3 weeks. Then you have 3 weeks to present your case formally, Theron said. Until then, leave my lands. For a moment, violence hung in the air like a blade waiting to drop. The corrupted beings behind Aldrich tensed, ready to attack. The pack wolves responded in kind, some already beginning to shift. Then Aldrich smiled, the most terrifying expression Lyra had ever seen on his face. 3 weeks, he agreed. But know this, Your Majesty, she will destroy you all. The moon-touched aren't meant to exist. They're tears in reality itself, and this one. He looked directly at Lyra. This one is the most dangerous of them all. When she loses control, and she will remember that we tried to warn you. He turned on his heel, his mages following. But at the door, he paused. Oh, and Lyra? Your mother sends her regards. She's quite comfortable in her new accommodations. Tower East, I believe. Much like your old one. Lyra's knees buckled. Theron caught her, but she barely felt it. My mother is alive? For now, Aldrich said. And then they were gone. The throne room erupted in chaos. Wolves arguing, demanding answers, some calling for Lyra's exile to protect the pack. But all Lyra could hear was the roaring in her ears. You told me she was dead, she said to no one in particular. When they took me, they said she was dead. Lyra, Theron said gently, but she pulled away from him. Don't. Power was building under her skin, silver light crackling between her fingers. Everyone I've ever tried to help has paid for it. My mother, that boy, your pack. Stop. Theron caught her hands, and the moment their skin touched, the power shifted. Instead of exploding outward, it cycled between them, gold and silver swirling together. You're not alone anymore. We'll get your mother back. How? Lyra demanded. The guild has had 7 years to fortify their position. They have hostages, armies, treaties, and we have you, Theron said simply. The moon's chosen. I don't even know what that means. Then we have 3 weeks to find out, Silas said, approaching carefully. The prophecy speaks of a moon-touched child who will either unite our kinds forever or destroy the barrier between worlds entirely. The guild fears you because they don't control you. But child, she touched Lyra's face gently, you're not meant to be controlled. You're meant to be free. Freedom killed everyone I loved, Lyra whispered. No, Theron said fiercely. The guild's fear did that. But you're pack now, and the pack protects its own. He looked around the room, meeting every wolf's eyes. Anyone who has issue with my mate can challenge me now, or accept her as Luna. The silence stretched. Then, one by one, the wolves began to bow. Not to Theron, to her. Luna, they murmured. Moon's chosen. Luna. 3 days passed in a blur of preparation and training. Lyra threw herself into learning everything she could about her power, working with Silas and the pack's ancient texts. But at night, the bond between her and Theron grew increasingly painful. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt him, his heartbeat, his breathing, his location in the fortress. The incomplete recognition bond pulled at her like a physical ache, demanding resolution. On the fourth night, she found herself walking the halls, drawn by invisible threads to the training grounds, where Theron was sparring alone in wolf form, his silver fur gleaming under the moon. He shifted the moment he sensed her, standing before her in human form, breathing hard from exertion. You shouldn't be here, he said roughly. The bond being near each other makes it worse. I know, Lyra admitted, wrapping her arms around herself. But staying away is agony too. They stood there, 10 feet apart but feeling like miles, the bond thrumming between them like a living thing. Tell me about the claiming, Lyra said suddenly. What would happen if we completed the bond? Theron's hands clenched. You'd become fully pack. The transformation would be intense. Your human side and the moon-touched power would merge completely with the wolf spirit. You'd be able to shift, to run with us, to he stopped. But it's dangerous. Some humans don't survive it, and you're already something beyond human. We don't know what it would do to you. And if we don't complete it, quote, the bond will eventually drive us both mad, he admitted. Recognition bonds aren't meant to remain incomplete. But I won't force this on you, Lyra. You've had enough choices taken from you. Before she could respond, howls erupted from the border. Alert howls intruders. They ran together, finding chaos at the northern gate. A woman stood there, surrounded by snarling wolves, her hands raised but not in surrender and warning. She looked exactly like Lyra, just 20 years older, with the same silver hair and violet eyes. Mother? Lyra breathed. Lyra, run, her mother shouted. It's a trap. Purple fire erupted from the ground transport circles. Guild mages materialized around them, and at their center stood Aldrich, smiling. Did you think we'd wait 3 weeks? He asked conversationally. Your mother was quite helpful in explaining your weaknesses. Moon-touched children are connected to their maternal line. Hurt one. He gestured, and Lyra's mother screamed, falling to her knees as purple flames licked at her skin. And you hurt both. And you hurt both. Lyra cried out, feeling the echo of her mother's pain through their shared blood. Her own skin burned with phantom fire. Stop! Theron roared, already shifting, but Aldrich raised a hand. Attack me, and they both die. The spell is tied to my heartbeat. He approached Lyra slowly. Here's my new offer. Come with us now, both of you, and I spare the pack. Refuse, and I activate the corruption spells I've hidden throughout your territory. Power. Every wolf here will become like those creatures you saw, twisted, mad, enslaved. You're bluffing, Theron snarled. Am I? Aldrich pulled out a crystal that pulsed with sickly light. Shall we test it? Young Marcus was so helpful, wasn't he? The boy Lyra saved? He's been carrying my spell anchor for days without knowing it. Horror dawned on Lyra as she remembered the collar, how easily it had crumbled. Too easily. You wanted me to destroy it, she realized. You used my own power to infiltrate the pack's defenses. Yes, Aldrich finished. Your pure magic hiding my corrupted spells. Poetic, really. I'll come, Lyra said immediately. Just don't hurt them. No! Theron lunged forward, but Lyra raised her hand, silver light flaring. I'm sorry, she whispered, and pushed him back with her power, gentle but firm. I won't let you all pay for my existence. Lyra, please. Her mother gasped from the ground. Don't trust him. The prophecy you're meant to. Aldrich twisted his hand, and her mother's words cut off in a scream. Enough talking, the High Inquisitor said. Both of you, now, or I start with the children. Lyra helped her mother to her feet, supporting her weight. As they walked toward Aldrich, she heard Theron's anguished howl behind them, felt the bond between them, stretching, tearing, screaming. I know what you're thinking, Aldrich said quietly as his mages surrounded them. You're thinking you'll find a way to escape, to save everyone. But you should know the tower we've prepared for you is special. Completely cut off from magic, from moonlight, from everything. You'll be as human can be. They were almost at the transport circle when Lyra felt it, a pulse through the earth itself. Not magic, not wolf, but something else. Something ancient and wild and angry. Her mother felt it too, her eyes widening. The eclipse, she breathed. Lyra, the eclipse is early. The moon above them began to darken, 3 weeks ahead of schedule. But this wasn't a natural eclipse. The shadow creeping across its surface was alive, writhing, reaching. Impossible! Aldrich gasped, his control wavering. That moment of distraction was all Lyra needed. She grabbed her mother's hand and reached for the power, not in her blood, not in her moon-touched nature, but in the bond itself, the incomplete, agonizing, beautiful bond that connected her to Theron. A recognition bond goes both ways, Silas had said during their studies. What affects one affects both. Lyra pulled on the bond with everything she had, and Theron responded instantly. His power, his wolf, his very essence flooded through their connection. But more than that, the entire pack responded. Every wolf bound to their alpha sent their strength through him, to her. The power that erupted from Lyra wasn't silver or gold but something beyond color, beyond light. It was moonlight and wolf song, humanity and wildness, everything the guild feared because they couldn't control it. The corruption spells Aldrich had hidden shattered like glass, the purple flames consuming her mother dissipated. And Aldrich himself. What are you? He whispered, staggering back. Free, Lyra answered, and unleashed everything. The blast sent guild mages flying, broke their transport circles, and cracked the very ground beneath their feet. But it didn't hurt anyone, not truly. Instead, it revealed them. Every mage's true nature became visible. Some truly believed they were protecting the world, others were consumed by hunger for power, and a few were just afraid. You could kill us all, Aldrich said from where he'd fallen. Why don't you? Because that's what you would do, Lyra replied. And I'm nothing like you. The eclipse above deepened, and she felt herself changing. Not the violent transformation of a forced claiming, but something natural, inevitable. Her mother's hand in hers anchored her humanity, while the pack bond pulled her toward her wolf nature. Lyra! Theron was there instantly, catching her as she swayed. The incomplete bond between them pulsed urgently, demanding resolution. The eclipse is accelerating her transformation, Silas said, appearing beside them. She needs to choose now, accept the claiming, or risk being torn apart between worlds. Lyra looked up at Theron, seeing her own fear and desire reflected in his golden eyes. Will it hurt? Yes, he said honestly. But I'll be with you through all of it. Around them, the guild mages were retreating, dragging a stunned Aldrich with them. The corrupted creatures they'd brought were free now, Lyra's power having cleansed them, and they fled into the forest to find their own paths. My daughter, Lyra's mother said weakly, I need to tell you the truth. You're not just moon-touched. Your father, the last moonwolf. Silas finished. Wasn't he? That's why the guild really took you both. Lyra's mother nodded. He died protecting us when Lyra was born. The guild knew what she could become, a bridge between all worlds. Human, wolf, and moon. They tried to control her through imprisonment, but another wave of transformation hit Lyra, dropping her to her knees. Her bones ached, her skin burned, and she could feel herself fragmenting. Choose, her mother urged. Choose love, my daughter. Choose the bond. Lyra looked at Theron, at the pack surrounding them with concern rather than fear, at her mother finally free after years of captivity. Then she looked at the moon above, half shrouded in eclipse shadow, calling to her blood. "I choose all of it," she gasped. "Human and wolf and moon. I won't fragment, I'll unite." She reached for Theron, and he pulled her against him without hesitation. "Are you sure?" "Claim me," she whispered. "Complete the bond." His teeth found her throat, right where the bond pulsed, strongest, and bit down. Not gently, not carefully, but with the full force of an alpha's claim. Pain exploded through every cell of her body, but so did ecstasy. She felt herself shattering and reforming, her human consciousness expanding to embrace something wild and ancient. The moon-touched power in her blood didn't fight the wolf spirit. They danced together, silver and gold becoming one. Through the bond, she felt Theron's wonder as her transformation took hold. Not becoming less human, or more wolf, but becoming something entirely new. When the pain finally receded, Lyra opened eyes she knew had changed. The world looked different, sharper, more alive. She could hear every heartbeat around her, smell emotions on the air, feel the earth's pulse beneath her feet. "Lyra," Theron breathed, and she saw her reflection in his eyes. Her hair had gone fully silver white, her violet eyes now held flecks of gold, and when she smiled, she felt the subtle presence of fangs. But more than the physical changes, she felt complete. The aching void that had existed her entire life was filled. The bond hummed contentedly between them, no longer painful but warm, comforting, right. "The prophecy," someone whispered. "She's fulfilled it. Look at the moon." Above them, the eclipse was receding, but the moon that emerged was different, brighter, somehow more alive. And across its surface, for just a moment, the shadow of a running wolf appeared before fading, permeated. "The barrier between worlds," Silas said in awe. "It's not broken, it's transformed, permeable, as it was meant to be." 3 weeks later, Lyra stood at the highest tower of the winter fortress, not imprisoned, but free, watching the sunrise paint the mountains gold. Her mother stood beside her, finally healing from years of captivity. "The guild has formally withdrawn all claims," Vera announced, entering with a scroll. "Aldrich has been removed as High Inquisitor. The new leadership wants to establish a treaty, they're calling it the Lunar Accord." Lyra smiled, her hand finding the mate mark on her throat that connected her eternally to Theron. Through their bond, she felt his approach before she heard his footsteps. "The packs from the Eastern Territories have arrived," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "They want to meet the Luna who broke the guild's stranglehold on magic." "I didn't break anything," Lyra protested. "I just showed them there's nothing to fear from being different." Over the past weeks, word had spread. Moon-touched children were emerging from hiding, no longer hunted but celebrated. Wolves and humans were finding common ground. The rigid barriers the guild had enforced for centuries were dissolving. "You freed us all," her mother said softly. "From fear, from hiding, from believing we had to be one thing or another." A young wolf pup ran onto the balcony. Marcus, the boy Lyra had saved from the collar. "Luna! Luna! Look what I can do!" He shifted mid-run, going from boy to boy again in seamless transformation. "Healer, Vera says it's because your power touched me. I can shift easier now." Lyra ruffled his hair affectionately. "That's wonderful, Marcus. But remember, with great power comes great responsibility," Marcus recited, then scampered off. "You're good with the young ones," Theron murmured against her ear. "The pack is already whispering about future heirs." Lyra blushed, but didn't pull away. The idea of children of a future beyond mere survival still felt miraculous. A howl rose from the forest, then another, then dozens, not alarm, but celebration. The full moon was rising early in the evening sky, and even though it wasn't night yet, its pull was undeniable. "Run with me?" Theron asked, and Lyra felt her wolf stir in response. The shift came easily now, as natural as breathing. Where once stood a woman, now stood a wolf, unlike any other silver-white fur that seemed to hold starlight, violet eyes with gold rings, and a presence that made even alphas bow. Theron shifted beside her, and together they ran. Through the fortress, past the celebrating pack, into the forest where more wolves joined them. Not just the winter pack, but wolves from every territory, drawn by the call of their moon Luna. As they ran, Lyra felt the truth of her transformation. She hadn't just become a wolf or remained human. She had become a bridge between worlds, between peoples, between fear and understanding. The tower that had once held her was empty now, its stones already being reclaimed by vines. The guild that had imprisoned her was transforming, learning to work with magic rather than control it. And the Alpha King, who had broken her chains, had given her something greater than freedom. He had given her belonging. Under the moon that had blessed and cursed her in equal measure, Lyra ran with her pack, her mate, her family. The prophecy was complete, but her story, their story, was just beginning. In the distance, she could hear it, the sound of other moon-touched children laughing, no longer hidden, no longer afraid. Presses. The world was changing, one broken chain at a time. And at the center of it all was a girl who had spent 7 years in a tower, learning that sometimes the greatest power isn't in the magic you wield, but in the love you choose to accept and the freedom you grant to others. The Alpha King had broken her chains, but in the end, she had freed them all.